Okay, I'd like to start February 2026 Transportation Advisory Board meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chair McKee-Burrows. Here. Board Member Sterrett.
Here.
Vice Chair Wickland.
Here.
Board Member McInerney.
Here.
Board Member Zortman.
Here.
Board Member Palmino.
Here.
Council Member Popkin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We acknowledge that Longmont sits on the traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and other Indigenous peoples. We honor the history and the living and spiritual connection that the first people have with this land. It is our commitment to face the injustices that happened when the land was taken and to educate our communities, ourselves, and our children to ensure that these injustices do not happen again. Do we have any comments about last month's meetings? Notes? Minutes? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
Approve.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, next up is communications from staff.
Good evening, Chair and board members. So we'll first start off with the bullet point A here, resources for current projects. So we just wanted to remind the board, especially with our new members, where you can find information about current and ongoing transportation projects, programs, plans, and policies. The website is really the first resource there. So our kind of, transportation webpage, that is longmontcolorado.gov/transportation. You can also just Google City of Longmont transportation projects, and it should be the first link that pops up there. There's information there on road closures, the pavement management program, snow and ice control, street maintenance, traffic, and transportation projects. If you are interested in the capital improvement program and those specific projects, you can also go under the budget office's webpage, and the capital improvement program webpage lives under there. You can also Google City of Longmont Capital Improvement Program, and it'll pull up that webpage. So obviously we are collaborating with you all to develop the 2026 annual work plan, and we want to make sure that the plans, programs, policies, and projects that you all are interested in, that you all would like to hear updates on or presentations on, are in that work plan. And of course, if there is a specific project that you would like an update on, we can bring those forth in the staff updates or communications from staff. But just wanted to kind of refresh everyone and let you all know that just due to staff time and staff capacity, we don't have the ability to really sit down one-on-one and go through specific projects and programs with you all ad hoc, but we're certainly happy and always willing to bring updates to you all as requested under the agenda items. So just wanted to do a quick refresh on where you can find information online, and then how you can request updates to us as staff from the board.
Would it be possible for you to tab those links in an email?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair McKee-Burrows and board members. Jim Angstadt, Director of Engineering Services. This evening, we wanted to provide you an update on a number of the street projects that are currently slated for construction in 2026. As I was preparing this list and going through it, I kept it to the large-scale projects like our asphalt rehab, concrete rehab, any of our miscellaneous concrete rehab, we're not including. They are citywide. If the additional information is one of those, we'd be happy to provide it to you as you see it going on throughout the city. Right now, this evening, I've got about 7 projects I want to go through real quick. if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me as I go through them. Number of them you have heard before, familiar with. We've reported on them. And now, in past years, it's been talking about they're in design. Currently now, almost all these projects are finishing design and property acquisition, and we are preparing to go out to bid. All these projects require us to put out bids for competitive bidding for contractor selection, and then we'll end up several months later in construction. So first one I want to just go over was quiet zones. That project is the installation of various safety improvements at grade crossings, railroad crossings throughout the city. The program includes 15 improvements to 15 of the 17 crossings on the main BNSF line, extending from southwest part of the city at Hoover all the way north to 66. That project is in its first phase, or our package as we have labeled it. Improvements have been completed at Long's Peak, and then 9th Avenue and 17th, those crossings. There is still some minor adjustments for the 9th Avenue and 17th Avenue crossing, but all the major construction is completed at those three crossings. We are going to be undertaking 3rd Avenue in March or April of this year. So understand there will be probably more than likely a 2 to 3 week closure of 3rd Avenue. They will be in conjunction with the safety improvements. BNSF will be replacing their rails at the crossing. That's going to be forced to closure. There will be more public engagement later in the year, advertising the detour routes and indicating with enough notice that the road will be, there's changes to traffic patterns. The next package we're working on currently consists of 3 crossings, 4th Avenue, 6th Avenue, and 21st Street. We are currently working on design to finalize those designs and get the appropriate approvals from BNSF and the PUC, as well as we're working on the agreements with BNSF. We anticipate wrapping those up shortly, and then bidding is scheduled for an April timeframe with construction later in the summer. Most of those crossings, or at least at 2 of the crossings at 4th and 6th, they'll be able to build those with minimal closures. 21st, we anticipate a 3 to 4 week closure, which is why we want to try to get it done in summer before school season opens. Then we are continuing design with the other crossings throughout the city. The next project in line is Pace Street improvements. The limits of that project are Pace Street between 9th Avenue and 17th. The project involves the addition of curb and gutter on the west side of the road to finish that section, widening the road out, and then installing drainage improvements. That widening is to accommodate buffered bike lanes, expand the bike lanes on both sides of the road. And then as well as the project we're working with our Parks Department to include improvements to the Rough and Ready Trail that connects into Pace just north of 9th. That old trail is an asphalt concrete mix. So we are going to be relocating the trail slightly and installing a concrete surface on that. The shifting of the trail will get us away from some of the fenced areas and allow us to plow that with more consistency and provide a better product during winter months when we have snow events. Plan is also to the addition of 2 RRFB crossings. On the roadway. We are reducing the speed limit. It is currently 45 miles per hour. After the improvements, will be reduced to 35 miles per hour. That will match the section further south of Pace. We're looking to start bidding this month in February, with construction to follow in May. Next project is the Boston Avenue crossing. That is a new at-grade road crossing of the BNSF tracks at the intersection just east of the Boston Price intersection. That is part of the kind of the first and main BRT routes that we've been working on. So that project the design is complete. We are finalizing property acquisition. We've got to buy a couple pieces of property and a couple of easements. We're looking to begin utility relocations in February and March from the outside utilities. And bidding is scheduled for March with construction to follow in June, July of this year. Not going to have a lot of impact where we do the crossing for travelers. There will be some drainage improvements at that intersection as well. So we'll see, some impacts, but we're hoping to keep traffic moving through that area. Next project is the Sunset State Highway 119 intersection. That project also involves a road diet from 119 moving north on Sunset to Nelson Road to reduce the lanes to provide capacity in the roadway for buffered bike lanes. The intersection improvements are laid out to provide defined lanes of a left, center, and a right turn lane. Going north-south. Currently, there are 2 lanes in each direction, and they're not well marked. It's sort of a free-for-all. That'll allow us to provide additional signalization to provide for left turns going north-south to access 119, so it's not as much of a free-for-all. There'll be some pedestrian improvements and bike lanes through the intersection as well. There is, as part of that project, an extension of the Dry Creek Trail coming out of the mall and then running along Dry Creek, which will tie into the project. That we included that as part of our design. That project will be run through the Parks Department as part of their trail work. Design is complete. We're working on getting our property acquisition finalized, approved through CDOT. That does have grant funding and a CDOT agreement, and we're looking to get that started to go out to bid in March with construction to follow in the summer. Shifting over to the east side of the city, County Line Road multimodal improvements. Limits of the project are on County Line Road from 17th to, say, Highway 66. Looking to widen that section of County Line Road to provide buffered bike lanes on both sides, along with drainage improvements to assist with some of the properties to the west that have had some challenges. With drainage, design is complete. We're finalizing property acquisition. Similar to Sunset 119 intersection, we do need a CDOT sign off for that, for the property acquisition, to make sure we're in compliance with their standards. That is grant supported as well. Bid process is scheduled for April with construction in July and August. Probably the biggest project we've been talking about for a number of years is Coffin Street. We are working to continue the extension of Coffin Street from 2nd Avenue down to Boston and then with the trail to the St. Vrain Creek. The section between 1st Avenue and Boston is tied in to the First and Main Transit Station. So that project involves roadway reconstruction and new roadway construction for that First and Main Transit Station, utility relocations, drainage improvements. We're working on a regional detention pond for that area as well. Multimodal facilities, and then the section from Boston to St. Vrain Creek will be trail improvements to run multimodal down that corridor. Design's currently at 90%. We're looking to start a bid process for the utilities in March of this year and hopefully follow in May with the full-blown roadway package. The last project, although it's not a city-led project, is the State Highway 119 Hover Street overpass. Staff's been coordinating with CDOT in that project. That design is in final stages, and we've been informed by CDOT that they are going to start preliminary construction in April of this year, start working on some of the minor scale roadway widening for some of the runaround lanes to keep traffic moving while they are undertaking full-blown construction. That's what I brought tonight. Be happy to answer any questions. And if you need any additional information, please feel free to email me and I can get you whatever you need.
Any questions?
Yeah, on those quiet crossings, the ones that are completed, you said 9th and 17th.
Yeah, board members, board member Palmano, we have completed the improvements at a little bit of a tricky answer. Let me try to walk you through it. We've completed the physical improvements at with some minor exceptions at 9th. Most of the work at 17th. There are some additional work to be done. Long's Peak has also been completed. The challenge is once you complete the physical improvements, you need to apply for a quiet zone to the FRA.
Okay.
They come out and inspect it, and if you've done everything in accordance with that, there's like a 6-month lead time before they will create that quiet zone. We have applied for the quiet zone at 17th. They have come back and said we need to do additional work. That's the additional improvements we need to do. There's a few things we're working through on that. So as we complete these improvements, more than likely we will wait till we do a series of them and then apply for a bulk of them at one point. Looking to get the 3rd Avenue to 9th done in the Old Town area. Once we complete those, we would then apply for that as in bulk. So more than likely we'd be looking to apply for that for next year.
So none of the crossings, once they've gotten through the approval process, they're not implemented independently, right? Would you do it in mass?
So we can do it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do it independently in the Old Town area. As the law reads, the trains are required to blow their horn a quarter mile before the crossing.
Okay.
So the challenge is those crossings are not a quarter mile apart. So they'll just blow their horn all the way through. So while we may have a quiet zone at one crossing, that'll maybe impact the area further away from the crossing. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for us. So 17th Avenue is one we looked at because the spaces in the crossings are like I think about a half a mile.
Oh,
So we looked at that as a test case and also to see if we can do that. If we go to the 21st, we'll probably apply for that one separately.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Really, can I talk? Then thank you, Jim, for the update. I just want to kind of an organizational effort here is could we get maybe a list of that before every meeting by chance? Instead of, hearing everything that's going on and then we're writing down, looking things up, looking at a map, et cetera. Is that possible?
Well, anything's possible.
All right.
Except that.
All right.
So let me clarify. You want an update every board meeting, or
we've been doing some CIP updates, kind of during communications from staff for a little while now.
okay?
And it would just be nice if we get the list maybe a week ahead of time instead of
Okay, so
yeah. So I'm just saying so that we could be more prepared.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the next time you don't want
Yeah.
an update every month, but you
No.
want it before when we do an update.
Yeah.
You want it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Sure, I can
There you go.
provide that to you.
Okay.
I can provide the list I have now. It's
Okay.
just a memo.
Yeah.
It's a memo form to a file. I can just
Yeah.
send it to you, so
Yeah.
you'll have it and you can see what the timeframes are. They do change
Yeah.
periodically. You'll
Yeah.
as we depending on staffing, depending on I want to say particularly with getting CDOT approvals or dealing anything with the PUC, FRA, BNSF.
Yeah.
Anything blows up a project like that, they are extremely complicated. Each crossing is different, and it's sometimes a nightmare, which is sometimes
Yeah.
the delay we see. So, sure, and I'll get you. Tomorrow morning I'll send this out so you'll have it in your file, so you can see it and have that. So the next time we provide an update, we'll get it to you ahead of time.
Cool. Then final point would be thank you, Kaylee, for the website info. I will bring up a point that a lot of what Jim you just mentioned of all the projects that are going on are not on the website for even upcoming projects or ongoing. So just might want to try to update that for the public who is curious to learn what's going on. But other than that, thank you.
Jim, thank you for the update. Regarding quiet zones, looking way into the future, when do you envision all the construction will be completed, the zones approved, and it'll actually be quiet? What year would that be?
I'll take a stab and estimate that it will probably be 2030 by the time we get through the whole entire process. To have the physical improvements completed, have submitted to FRA for all of the zones and have them approved. We're currently looking to have, we're still well out for 66 and Hover on the either end of the city. One of the challenges with 66 is that we've been working with BNSF to pursue an overpass concept. So there's other projects coming. We're still moving ahead with quiet zones for that because that's a 10, 20 year time frame for a project of that nature. But my best guess would be in about 4 years.
Okay, thanks.
So Jim, as you note, the horn has been one of my concerns ever since I moved here. This is my question. You're saying 4th and 6th is going to be this year,
Yeah.
probably.
We are looking at 4th, 6th, and 21st.
Yeah, okay. So 4th and 6th and 9th is already done. So is that going to bring some kind of quiet to the school down there, Columbine? I've always been concerned about that with the kids.
So, Board Member Zortman, we'd have to look at that. I think when we still will need to basically close Fifth Avenue as part of the both the quiet zone, and it's tied to the Boston Avenue crossing, and that's more than likely not going to happen until next year.
Okay.
The kind of the advantage of a closure versus doing the improvements is closures are pretty simplistic in what we can do. There's not a lot of technical improvements, meaning they don't have to do gates. We just got to put in curb and gutter and put in some signs. So it's the construction is minimal for the closure. It's going to be the biggest thing, the longest thing I see is what is going to be some of the timing of that. Currently, as the PUC ruling reads for the approval for the crossing at Boston, we close those crossings when we have that crossing open. BNSF prefers to have the crossings closed before we have the crossing open, but we're following the PUC ruling, so we're still working on through those items.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so Boston crossing, that is going to be a new grade crossing, and we're going to route the BRT over that?
Yeah, that is, I think, the
Okay.
current plan. It's going to go
And-
down Boston Avenue.
Okay, and then you're saying that we are basically swapping that with the Fifth Avenue crossing?
So this has got a lot of history to it on
Maybe.
crossings. So I'll try to simplify it as best as possible. A number of years ago, I want to say 10, 15 years ago, the city applied to the PUC for a crossing at Boston. Long before BRT was planned by RTD and their routes. And at that time, it was brought up by BNSF that their requirements are in their manuals that if you are going to get approval for a new crossing, you need to close 2 existing crossings. So that's kind of been our strategy all along. And for that, and then they indicated that they would not oppose the new crossing. Once we started doing that, turns out they oppose the crossing. So we worked through a number of things, and that was our plan all along, was to close 2 crossings to get the new crossing approved, and we were successful this time. The other crossing is at Terry Street, which serves one property, and as part of that approval, we will build a connection road between Terry Street and Kaufman to serve that one property, which is where the old abandoned flour mill is. In that area. So that's part of to get that crossing done, we also have to build that small local little city street.
Okay. And so are we working with RTD to make sure that they have a backup route for the BRT for if the crossing on Boston is blocked? I'm getting a nod saying yes.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'll let Cammy answer.
Yes, so all of the backup routes with RTD are already predetermined, and they already know the buses can make the turns as needed or whatever. So those are sort of predetermined if and when needed. Yes.
Thanks. Glad to hear that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jim. Honestly, it doesn't sound like you guys have enough on your plate, so I hope you're enjoying like a relaxing year. You don't have to comment on that.
Council Liaison Popkin, as I started my dialogue with, this is the highlights. This is not everything we do. Okay, it doesn't include water replacements, doesn't include sanitary, doesn't include drainage improvements, doesn't include RSVP. Okay, when I go through my list of projects, it's several pages long. I'd be happy to share it with you if you want to see everything we do. And then for your council retreat, we're also working on our accomplishments from 2025, which has gone to 4 pages now. I can send that to you too.
I look forward to seeing it.
Okay.
I appreciate all the work that's going into this.
You.
Sarcasm aside, I appreciate all the work that's going into this and the detailed updates. I actually just had a couple quick clarifying questions. One, you mentioned the Terry Street closure just now. Is that the little almost like tangent off of First Avenue that doesn't fully connect through that you just have to fully close? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's basically cul-de-sac street off of First Avenue.
That goes nowhere.
And that, we've also been coordinating or starting to have conversations regarding the Front Range passenger rail.
Yeah.
And a train station, a train platform. Initial conversations are that's where that train platform is going to go. We would, if you want rail here, and that's as a logical place to have a platform, that's going to be the place. We're going to already close it. So
I just wanted to make sure that was clear to folks.
That's clear. And then so further north, on the north side of the big substation that's down there is where the road's going to go. The city had bought a piece of property called the old ice house. It had burned down years ago. And then we had just recently demolished the whole thing. And so we'll build a small section of City Street through there.
Yeah, great. Thank you. When going back to clarify on the Sunset 119 improvements, you mentioned a Dry Creek Trail connection extension that Parks is going to work on. Can you just walk me through where that's going to be? I presume it's on the north side of 119.
It's north of 119 from the back side of the mall, okay, just south of the Dry Creek Channel. Is city had done a housing project in there. It's just north of there. I could probably provide you a graphic with a
just
map.
North of the suites there.
Yeah, north of the suites. It runs along through that property and then ties into a local city street down in there. Yeah, Cordy Parkway.
Yeah, okay. So
It'll
it's
run
going to go
along
from
there,
there.
and then I think part of the improvement was including some RFBs, so that would on both sides of the intersection of Cordy and Sunset, to provide for pedestrian and multimodal traffic to make it safer for them.
Excellent, thank you. And then you didn't mention this, but you did mention in your reply to my encouragement comment there, the RSVP, the Resilient St. Vrain project. Just curious what the latest, what the current timeline and phase of that work is at for the, I guess, what's the Sunset Reach part?
Yeah, currently there's 2 efforts going on RSVP. There is the Army Corps of Engineer project, which is under construction. That is extending from Boston to just west of Sunset. That project is slated, I believe, for a June completion.
June
this
year?
summer. That will then open up the trail and extend the trail where we have a detour, and that'll get us to the trail up to Sunset. The section from just west of Sunset to Hover is currently at about 30% design. and is now in the hands of FEMA for review. I think the state has provided comments. We're waiting to hear back from FEMA. That is also the trigger to see if they will provide us additional funds for construction, which is about, I want to say, with the design would be about 15, 16 million. We will have to make a decision as part of budget this year as to whether, if you can recall, a few years ago, we floated out a referendum for bonds for 20 million to finish the project and do other drainage improvements. That got approved. We raised rates, drainage rates to pay those bonds back. And we've been holding off on selling the bonds. So we'll have to make a decision as to whether we want to move forward with selling bonds in more than likely either late this year or next year, if we want to move forward with construction. Now, in this case, we've been able to fund the design, but we're not going to be able to go to construction for the next phase until 27. So we're 30% design now. We're going to be another year in design, and then doing some environmental work as well. There's some issue with bank swallows we're working through. And then, so the improvements will include another bridge crossing Hover, or Hover crossing the channel to handle the split flow. The option was either that or a box culvert, and the box culvert really wasn't going to work. So when we get to construction, there will be significant impacts in that area.
Will that be in lieu of the current bridge that goes across
It will be
Roberts
an
Grove?
additional bridge. It'll
Oh,
be
in
south
addition.
of that bridge
Interesting.
to carry the split flow. But we can bring that up in April in the annual preview of proposed 5-year CIP projects.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Is there any reason why the trail would remain closed once the construction this June is complete?
So when June is, the Army Corps is complete and that area is open, we'll be running the trail back to its original configuration, continuing up through the Hover Reach until such time as we go to construction.
For Hover Reach.
And we won't know that if we go in 27.
Sure.
Then there'll be another detour of that section, and we'll have to see
That makes
how
sense, yeah.
plan that detour out and
No,
what
of
that's
course.
going to look like.
Great. Well, thank you for these updates and for the projects, small and large. Appreciate it.
Okay, I had a couple of questions. So about Pace Street, where are the crossings that you mentioned? Where are they going to be along Pace?
I'm going to throw one answer to Kyle. I know one's going to be at the Rufford and Ready Trail connection, where it outlets on the west side, currently west side of Pace, but I'll have to ask Kyle for, where the other section was going to be, the other RFP.
Trying to remember the name of the street. I think it's Redmond Drive. It's just the far east side of Skyline High School where the baseball fields and track are. So that first neighborhood street right there.
Red Oak Drive?
Maybe Red Oak Drive. It's been a while since I looked at the plans. So
Okay.
there'll be a crossing there along with a bus stop as well.
Okay. So there won't be one in the north area where King Supers and all those shopping areas, because I see people crossing there often between the two shopping areas, and I'm just wondering if maybe it might be a thought to add a crossing there too.
Yeah, we did a crossing there. Big issue was just accesses and sight distance for crossing. There's a lot of lanes of traffic to cross for pedestrians. But we are providing improvements currently right now on 17th Avenue and Pace for pedestrian protection as well with our passive detection systems. So it's an added benefit to this project is we'll be upgrading some pedestrian access at the existing signalized intersections and providing those mid-blocks. And then future crossings we'll be looking at for Vision Zero action plan.
Okay. And what type of road diets are you going to be adding for that whole Pace section?
The Pace section, we're reducing the, I believe it's 12 feet right now. Sorry, I'm going from memory. We're reducing the lanes down to 11 feet each side, reducing the speed limit, and then be adding, part of that project is adding more asphalt space for bikes. So it'll be a 6-foot bike lane of asphalt, not asphalt plus curb, as well as a buffer area for bikes as well.
Okay. Thank you. Another question about Sunset and 119. I don't remember seeing a final design of how that's going to look. I know we discussed it at one point, but I haven't seen like the final design of how that's going to look, and I don't have that picture in my mind. So if someone could describe how that's going to work, I'd be interested.
So as you're at the intersection, in 119 really isn't going to change per se. It's going to be two lanes in each direction with a center turn lane. So at each intersection, going north-south, there will basically be, if I get my numbers right, basically as you approach it, it'll be a left turn lane, a through lane, and then a right turn lane, and then a receiving lane. So that's going to be the configuration in the north-south direction. In addition with that, there will be bike lanes crossing the intersection as well. And then, the pedestrian movements are, because it's such an angled intersection, the pedestrian movements are still off of that a little bit, although we are cleaning them up a bit. If you need to, I can get you a conceptual graphic or the layout of the design. I believe I had forwarded it to Councilmember Popkin like a year ago, so we can revisit that, get it for you, and send it to the whole board.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm just, because it's such a weird intersection. I'm just curious,
Yep.
how you're going to deal with all those awkward angles.
It'll be better.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be better.
Yeah, I mean, you do the best you can. Let's see my other question. Similar type of question for 119 and Hover. Again, we had a big discussion here at TAP about the plans that CDOT had put forward and our comments about what their plans were. And I don't believe I've seen a final design. I was just looking online and I don't see an updated design based on what we saw originally. So I'm just curious.
Hi, Board. Cami Ezen, Transportation Planning Manager. Forgot to introduce myself earlier. So CDOT is still working on incorporating public comments. Staff haven't seen the final design yet either since public comment have been made. So those are forthcoming. So as soon as we get them, we'll be able to share them. But they're still going through all of those to see what can and cannot be incorporated into the final design set.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's all my questions. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, we'll continue with staff communications, the next section.
Okay, great. Next, I'd like to call up Ben Ortiz to the podium to give just a high-level overview of our transportation management organizations, also referred to as TMOs.
Good evening. My name is Ben Ortiz, transportation planner. So I was asked to give a very brief presentation on transportation management organizations, or as Kaylee mentioned, TMOs for short. So TMOs are really public-private partnerships, and they're centered around providing transportation information, transportation solutions, issues to address transportation issues for their members. So in the case of the City of Longmont, we have membership in two. So one is Commuting Solutions, and Commuting Solutions is their focus area is in Boulder County, those communities that straddle 287 from, I would say, Westminster north. And then the other organization we belong to is called Smart Commute. And Smart Commute kind of handles those communities north of Denver, all the way up to Longmont, straddling I-25 on both sides. And so we've been members of Commuting Solutions for, I would say, somewhat longer than Smart Commute, but as far back as the early 2000s. So they get their funding from their members, their member organizations, and in the case of Commuting Solutions, it's a fairly long list. Quite a few local governments, as well as some business associations, as well as actual businesses. And with that, I'd be happy to take any comments or questions that you have. I'll try to answer them for you.
Any comments, questions?
So what kinds of services do these organizations provide for the city?
So they provide a lot of educational information to their members, and they also try to provide transportation-related services like van pooling or carpooling, or becoming the conduit for those organizations that do provide those types of services An example of that would be the Van Go program out of the Way to Go program through the Denver Regional Council of Governments. So they try to provide carpooling information, van pooling information, but they also do market some regional type programs, which is a good segue in that they've been promoting pretty heavily Winter Bike to Work Day, and Winter Bike to Work Day is an event that's organized through the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and that will actually be happening this coming Friday morning, and the City of Longmont will be hosting a station across the street at the Development Services Center from 7 to 9 a.m., and we'd encourage all of you to ride your bikes that day. Just dress up. It won't be snowing, we hear, but you never know in Colorado.
Who knows what the weather's going to do on Friday. With the education, is the education that they provide focused more on like city staff or the general public?
Well, it's on behalf of employers that they would distribute to their employees. And so that's just one example, but Kaylee could also discuss that she's working with one of our TMOs to develop, an e-bike share program. You may have heard of that. And then one of our TMOs is also working on a transportation demand management model ordinance that their members can adopt. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with transportation demand management, it's those types of programs or projects that would encourage people to use other forms of transportation or would encourage people to get into carpool arrangements or van pool arrangements, telecommuting, those kinds of things. And the intent is to reduce single occupancy travel and improve air quality as well as traffic congestion.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a bit of both. Like some of it is like, hey, we're going to help, everyone in Boulder County and like Westminster get together, build a bike share. And some of it is like, hey, employers, here's how you do a van share.
Precisely, yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
So I might add that they are an organization, they can help with grant support, advocacy support, marketing support, a lot of things that municipalities have limitations with doing. They are those external partners that can help us with those elements. They often focus on corridor-specific work. So around here, they started on Highway 36 or like I-25, depending, and now Commuting Solutions has also adopted 287 and 119. So a lot of the marketing toolkits, and they are often the hosts and facilitators, a lot of the regional conversations that brings all the municipalities together. So they are a huge support to municipalities, not just the City of Longmont, but they also, as Ben has mentioned, do a lot of TDM work and work with businesses on behalf of the municipalities who don't necessarily have staff who can go do that directly either. So they are a wealth of information. They do a lot for us. They are a great partner and offer a lot of different kinds of support. And it's nice we have two to call upon in our backyard, not just one. Not everyone often gets two, and we are lucky enough to have two.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ben, are you aware of any employers in the region who are promoting van pools and at the same time charging for parking at their facilities?
Well, I do know that Boulder County has attempted to get van pooling off the ground, and obviously the Boulder County offices are in downtown Boulder, so they do charge for parking throughout much of Boulder. So the answer to that is yes. I can't speak to any other communities. I do know that Boulder County has had some difficulty keeping their van pools going because of how dispersed their employees are. So generally, in order for van pools to work, you have to have quite a few employees in pockets that are going to roughly the same location. And so, unfortunately, they've struggled finding those employees that could actually make up meaningful carpools and then keep it going. So as I understand it, they've had to heavily subsidize their van pool program in order to keep it going. And they have very dispersed workplaces too in Boulder County.
Okay, any more comments? Okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have public invited to be heard. Okay. All right, we have information items.
Do you all have access on your screens, the work plan, sort of the updated version? I'm just wondering if it'd be what's most helpful to share on the screen right now. So Steph, if it's showing here, is it showing anywhere else in here? Or it doesn't?
We're able to download it.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not sure if this is even helpful at the moment. Okay, well, on that note, since you all can see it up on your screen, we wanted to come back and revisit where we left off last month and finalize your 2026 tab work plan. So hopefully in front of you, you're looking at a very familiar looking spreadsheet of what we reviewed last week, or excuse me, last month, and I'll just hold it up if you want to pull that up. So after your comments, and Arlene, do you have it? I want to just make sure before we progress, we have everybody looking at the right thing. No, well, we got plenty of time, so don't worry. Great, everybody got it up, pulled up, so we can, okay, great. So, as you recall, last month we presented a list of proposed work plan topics. You all had a discussion where you came with your individual kind of priority preferences, and then kind of talked amongst yourselves with additional ideas that weren't necessarily on that original list. And so staff took all of that feedback, and what you're looking at tonight is the updated version where we factored in all of your priorities, all of your new ideas, all of those existing ideas, still trying to factor in what are the most relevant topics for 2026 that are active projects, knowing that there might be more time where we can get into some other projects that are going to be maybe be on deck in 2027 a little bit later. So what you're looking at is this updated version. Your ask tonight is to ultimately approve the work plan. And with that being said, this is obviously a live working document. These are our best guesses of what months might make the most sense to bring these forward based on outside factors such as consultant availability to come present on certain plans we might have to shift here or there. But as we're looking at this, just wanted to sort of walk through just as a refresher is the informational items are those that we feel like would be more presentation topic worthy, where we'd have a discussion with you all to get your feedback on. Action items are the topics where you would need to take a vote on. And then staff updates are really more where we're just kind of giving an informational share, not necessarily full-blown discussions. They could turn into discussions just as we did tonight with some of the CIP things, but we didn't come with a formal presentation. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, we sort of wanted to walk through and ask that this represents what we thought we heard last month, unless there's any additional edits you've identified that we can say based on maybe a minor change here or there. This is up for you all to discuss if you're ready to sort of adopt it as your working work plan. And then we can move on from there. And we will use this to help guide our agenda each month moving forward.
Do we want to go along, or how are we feeling about this? Do we want to all comment on this? Okay.
Yeah, I really like what I'm seeing in here. I still, of course, really want to have the opportunity to have a discussion on Clover Basin and Hover. I think that that is going to be a really important intersection as we bring the bike trail into Longmont, or the 119 trail. And I think that having the time to discuss that intersection will be important, especially since it is in our topic list. As far as when, August is RTD. September or October maybe look like good options to me.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any other sort of missing topics that maybe didn't get represented the way you were expecting them to?
Well, it's not really a missing topic. I just have, when was Ride Longmont pilot year end? Is it over the year?
So the first year just ended in December. It started December 2024, ended December 2025. That was our first year. So unfortunately, right before you came on board, we did a full update. So we figure we'll come back, do an update later in the year and kind of talk about what we're prioritizing in year 2 of our pilot. So we just didn't want to do 2 back-to-back for the larger board's purposes, Ride Longmont. But we can definitely do shorter updates in the meantime if you have questions. But we figured a more formal process might be later in the year.
And that's fine. I just wondered when the year was up. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
they kind of follow the annual calendar year right now, which is
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yes. And I heard what, our council liaison said, the prior board meetings are recorded if it would be helpful and you want to go back. Was that November, Kaylee? Do you remember? December? Yeah. December meeting. Yeah.
Thank you, Cammie. The only kind of idea I have is if we could move up the study session on roundabouts instead of waiting till the end of the year. Don't know if we could do 2 study sessions in the summertime, if that would be enough time to prepare something for that. Because I think at least the general goal. Apologies, I don't know the 2 new members very well, but the general goal I think was kind of to develop a resolution to then go to council. So maybe if we could get our foundation earlier so that maybe we can come up with something before the end of the year.
One of our thoughts on that was in case there are other action items that come up, we didn't want you to have too many months too close together where you weren't able to do business as normal. So that was part of the idea of spread them out. We also know that with the Vision Zero action plan coming, there might be roundabout language within there that we could build upon. So we wanted to have it possibly, we can flip these, we can change the order. It doesn't have to be in these exact months either. But we thought there seemed to be possibly the priority interest of wanting to do this guidelines and standards first, then do the second session, which might be roundabout. So it's totally up for discussion and up for you all to decide if we do want to flip the order and potentially move them closer together. My concern is if you do 2 months back to back, then there's no potential for action items if there are things that the board needs to actually address or give feedback on. In addition, because at those study sessions, there's no opportunity to take official action.
Well, then I'll just let everyone else weigh in.
So you can switch or move them closer together. And we can switch. We can switch November, December. It can be any time in quarter 3, quarter 4. It was just more trying to sort of balance, not having them too close together, but also getting through them in the timing and of interest that makes sense to you all as well and us. But we're not locked into December, to your point.
So So I think, if we switch even by a month, that would be great in my mind.
Okay. We just move it up earlier in quarter 4. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. That's an easy swap that we can, when we send the minutes out, we can update these, make these minor changes. So the version you're looking at, and again, it will change as we go along, but at least you'll have these changes represented.
Any other comments or feedback?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I think that the Sundance update in July is well timed, so I think that's encouraging to see, and I'm just flagging that for members of the public who may not have the work plan in front of them at this moment. That'll be a good opportunity to learn about how staff in the city are ultimately planning for that, and I presume planning with some regional partners as well.
Yes.
So that's going to be super exciting.
And just on that note, just so you all know, that the Sundance team and the transportation planning team from Sundance intends to have most of the details figured out by the summer. They want the fall months to be for those unexpected last minute changes that pop up. So that's why we thought sometime this summer, it might switch to August, but somewhere in that zone, we could come and present, here is the proposed plan from the Sundance team that had been working with local regional partners. So there's going to be changes after that, but that is at least the starting version that sort of everyone has agreed upon will come out at some point over the summer, late summer, early fall.
Thanks, Cami. And it seems, and this is a bit of a step back from the work plan specifically, but just thinking about the transportation updates that Jim was previously sharing and the major projects there, it seems that those timelines are also keeping Sundance in mind, and maybe it was implicit in your updates based on the timelines, but I think it's worth explicitly saying like that's commendable that we're trying to kind of rejigger some of those puzzle pieces on some major infrastructure projects within both the Sundance timeframe, and it seems like not all layered at the same time within the city in this calendar year. So I think both of those are huge kudos to staff on that. Is there anything else at this time that you're just like mulling over as it relates to those projects, the construction timelines and Sundance, in terms of how you're thinking about it?
I think last time we talked about Sundance and Howard 119, I know there's definitely with the traffic, as Kyle can attest to, the traffic planning version that's being set up with starting to build the road out in April to be able to move traffic is all with intention of keeping that intersection open and usable, especially with the big event coming up. So the idea is we don't want to have traffic slowed down or stopped completely. So that is part of why they're going to be pre-constructing a bit of an additional road temporarily to be able to keep traffic moving through there. That would work through the Sundance Festival as well.
Thanks. And just one unrelated question to Sundance. One thing I don't see on here is the kind of what I understand to be the in the works e-bike regulations and planning. I saw the e-bike share in July. Did I miss the e-bike kind of regulations updates coming from council direction?
No, those are not necessarily here to say. There's
Sure.
a number of different departments working on that. So I think
Right, I know it's
when the
multifaceted.
right time to bring that to tab is kind of a little bit of could fall in one of the TBDs.
Sure.
But we can definitely earmark it as a topic that when there is relevant information to bring forward, we would.
Great. Yeah, I don't want to force it into a specific month at this
Yeah.
point because I know there's a lot of pieces to that, but it looks like those TBDs are well balanced there. So great. Thank you.
Just a couple of things maybe that we might want to add. Sorry if it's going to put a spanner in the works here, but transit station I know is coming up. I think next year is the year, if I'm remembering right, where things are going to really start kicking off for that. And I'm just wondering if we maybe at some point during the year in one of those TBDs we could add a update on where the transit station is looking and like the final awesome, more conceptual idea of what it's going to look like and those types of aspects, because I know that's kind of in the pipeline coming up soonish.
Yeah, so the project team's working on, there's 2 transit stations actually in progress. One downtown, as most of you may have heard about, maybe near the First and Main station, as Jim brought up earlier, and has been talked about before, as well as one up north, just north of 66, near where the buses currently lay over, near the Walmart. So both of those are are in design right now, and both being considered to be done at the end of 2027. So BRT. So they'd both be open for the launch of regional BRT along the 119 corridor and then up to 87. So I think when those plans also might be a little bit TBD, when those are somewhat further along in conceptualization and finalization, we can have those on deck to bring forward. Okay. So we can do some quick, more minor staff updates in the meantime, as well as maybe figure out when the right time to maybe do a bit of more of a formal presentation would be later in the year potentially.
Okay, yeah. If it doesn't make sense, then obviously don't include it. But I just thought I'd bring it up because I know it's coming up sometime next year. I'm sure that there's probably not too many updates about front range passenger rail, but if it would make sense to have an update and have them come in and talk, if there is any meaningful updates, maybe we can fit it in, but it looks pretty busy already, so it may not be possible, but only if there's any actual real update.
That is definitely one of the big TBDs, is that until the joint service contract is signed between the state and the providers and all of that, which all of us are waiting on, there really isn't anything concrete to bring forward at this point. Once they have signed the contract and everyone in Colorado knows if it's officially happening or not, after that might be, a better time to bring details forward, especially specific to the Longmont location. We know generally where it's being proposed, but once details are announced. So that is a big TBD. I think there will be a time and place to bring that forward. Just a little bit of a big question mark about when.
Okay. Something that I noticed when I was going through the list of topics was wayfinding. And I was just curious if you could tell me more about what that would entail if we did discuss it and have it in one of our items here.
So the quick history lesson is there's basically 3 to 4 different wayfinding plans that the City of Longmont has developed in the recent years. And so there's a current effort by staff to go through and sort of consolidate what's been done, what's still needs to be done, what's relevant with the changes of potential rail, potential BRT, because some of the wayfinding initial plans aren't necessarily meaningful anymore. Longmont LDDA has done a lot of their wayfinding, so we're really going through all of the existing plans to bring forth more what would the current version of the implementation plan be to really build out wayfinding needs across Longmont. Some of it might be gateway signage, some of it will be signage related to BRT, some of it will be signage related to bikeways and trails. So there's a lot of different wayfinding needs that we have recognized still need to be met. And so we're just going through those existing plans to really figure out what are those remaining relevant elements and then bring that potentially forward for your review and comment to see, did we miss anything that wasn't necessarily captured in those original plans?
Okay, so that's another when it's ready type of situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're working on trying to get that pulled together in a logical way to bring forward.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay. Let me go back to the agenda.
So I think all of the topics that you've brought up so far can definitely be things that we can throw in as staff updates when there's time, whether they move over into a more full-blown presentation kind of on the informational item piece. Those are really the TBDs we've been talking about. It's when does the right timing make sense to do a bigger presentation on them?
Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is 17th Avenue and Lakeshore Drive signal plan. Or do you want to do the action item first?
I guess, does it matter? Stephanie, I might default to you. Could they do the action item right now since we're talking about it, or do we need to come back to it? I think Gina, it's up to you all. If you want to do it now, it's fine.
I mean, it probably makes sense to do
Yeah.
right now.
Then I'll move that we adopt the 2026 work plan with our comments that we said today.
And I will second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Great, thank you, board.
Okay, next is 17th Avenue and Lakeshore Drive signal plan.
Great, we're gonna have Caroline Michael come up and Kyle probably present on this.
All right, good evening, Transportation Advisory Board members. My name is Caroline Michael. I'm a Civil Engineer 1. Tonight, I hope you can see there is an exhibit with the 17th Avenue and Lakeshore Northwestern. Hopefully you're seeing that on your computers.
Can we close the single box for people on the
Okay,
It's the last page in the packet.
there we go.
All
All right. Tonight, this project is being brought to you as an infrastructure project of interest that we're seeking any comments you might have on it. It's kind of been an idea for a while. There's been some demand for quite a few years to have some kind of controlled crossing across 17th Avenue on the west side of town, kind of McIntosh Lake area. We actually have some counts back from like 2021 showing that we can meet like a 20 pedestrians per hour kind of threshold. That kind of indicates that some kind of crossing treatment was probably appropriate. We decided to move forward with a pedestrian hybrid beacon, which is also called a hawk signal by some people, which is a high intensity activated crosswalk. The MUTCD uses pedestrian hybrid beacon now. But it's essentially just, this would actually be the first formal pedestrian hybrid beacon in Longmont. You've maybe seen them in other communities or certainly around in like the Boulder area and some of those like Lafayette, Louisville. But it's essentially a pedestrian activated traffic signal. You press the button, you get like it's like a hard red light for vehicles to stop with the stop bar for 17th Avenue. And they've kind of been working with a consultant on this design, trying to see how we can better move people through the system. There's kind of some site constraints in this area. One, you can kind of tell from the 3-leg design is that way because there's no sidewalk on Lakeshore Drive on that west side. If you're familiar with that area, then that kind of just goes, like there's no like housing or anything on that side. It just kind of goes north to McIntosh Lake in that park area. So this is kind of the design we've landed on, with a few notes on here because this was sort of a later add to the agenda. So at least I didn't tell the consultant in time to get an updated exhibit. So apologies there. But we have, so right now they kind of showing kind of a green striped bike lane on 17th, but there actually isn't a bike lane striped on 17th. So that's probably not the most appropriate use of that green lane striping. We did kind of want to move it so that the crosswalk bars and the green striping were right next to each other as kind of a indication of pedestrians walk here, bikes move here, to kind of keep things moving. And the north-south bike lane striping you see there is also a little bit awkward as shown. There is a striped bike lane on Northwestern Road to the south, but there's not one on Lakeshore. So we were trying to think of ways to like better align that and make it more intuitive for cyclists actually using it. But if you guys like have any feedback, that's kind of why we're here tonight. So I will hand it off.
So my first question, why was the pedestrian hybrid beacon chosen over just a normal traffic light like we have on 9th and Gay?
Well, so the 9th and Gay, I don't even know what, that's kind of like a pedestrian activated crosswalk.
There's a traffic light.
Yeah, it's like a 3-head traffic signal. That's not really the current practice. That thing's probably a few decades old. It still works. I mean, people seem to understand. I think this has some pretty similar elements. It has a red light and a stop bar, as opposed to a rectangular rapid flashing beacon would have flashing yellow lights and like yield line striping. So I think this is like a little bit of a stronger treatment.
I would agree that the RFB is not appropriate for this intersection.
It's like a posted 40 miles per hour speed limit on 17th, and people go faster than that probably. So it's just, this is just the more current practice actually than what is at 9th and Gay.
So board member Starrett, a couple of considerations that we worked through for our decision. The current guidelines we follow are in our pedestrian crossing guidelines approved by council. The configuration of 17th is 2 lanes in each direction and a center turn lane at 40 miles per hour. That width of crossing in our guidelines requires us to use some type of activated signal as a recommended crossing, not an RRFB. An RRFB in this case is usually reserved for a mid-block crossing, and you want to, the distance is too wide to utilize that treatment. A hawk signal it's basically the signal at 9th and 9th and Gay is a hawk signal. It's just an outdated version of one. Okay, it's still it's just going to be an activated basically signal for pedestrians. So if no one pushes the button, the signal is going to stay green. Northwestern and Lakeshore Drive is still stop controlled. But the evaluation of as we move through the options we were very limited. But the width of the road, the speed limit dictates that a basically a pedestrian activated traffic signal is the preferred option.
I agree that some sort of pedestrian controlled traffic signal is ideal for this. I agree that the RRFB is not a strong enough treatment. It's more that the hawk signal, this would be new for Longmont in this configuration. And so are we doing anything with, or will we be doing anything with the police department to do enforcement to make sure people understand how to use this? Because I've seen them before, and they kind of usually have this manual of a sign beforehand. And I'm not sure drivers are always going to be reading through that whole manual as they pass through.
So part of our process for this will involve some community engagement, some education, various communication announcements, are not RFBs, but variable message boards prior to the install. But there will be, because this is pretty much new in Longmont, there will be some education that will be undertaken to educate the public.
All right. Thank you. To clarify, a hawk signal, my understanding is that pedestrian presses the button, it starts flashing yellow for the cars. No.
Yes.
What happens when?
So its natural state will just be a dark signal, no colors.
Right.
As a person comes up, press the button, it'll start flashing yellow as a warning. And after that, it will go solid red. And after a given amount of time, it'll start doing a flashing red operation, which means it's basically a stop sign at that point. And that will allow cars to pass if there's no pedestrian present. Okay. It's one of the benefits of the hawk signal versus the traditional 3-section traffic signal is you'll see a little bit more voluntary compliance. What we've seen in a lot of areas that have the 3-section head signal you see at Gage Street is it will go red for cars. It'll say a bicyclist uses it. They're crossing the intersection in 15 seconds. But per METCD, we have to time it for pedestrian at a certain speed. So cars can be sitting there for 20, 30 seconds with no one present. So the benefit of the hawk is we'll have a period of time that holds traffic still while someone's in the crosswalk. And then after that point, they can proceed with caution like it would be like a yield condition.
Okay. I just asked that to clarify to make sure I understood what I thought it was. So now, are these normally placed in a 4-way intersection?
They can be placed at a 4-way intersection or a mid-block crossing.
Okay.
And it's specifically used
because
for
I think I've
pedestrians.
seen more evidence of them in the middle of the road, a mid-block crossing, et cetera. So what would happen to the traffic flow going north-south if a vehicle is wanting to cross 17th, the hawk signal goes off, that blocks off, that tells 17th east-west to stop. What's the north-south traffic trying to do now?
Basically, they'd be third in line for right-of-way. So they still have the stop condition, and then they still have to yield to traffic on 17th Avenue as well as pedestrians.
Okay. Is there any warning for the north-south of, hey, this light just went on?
There will be side of poles. So it's hard to see there, but you see like a little 1A in the corners. So those will be visible from the other side to let people know that there's someone in the crosswalk.
Okay. And then what's the cost difference between a 4-way signalized intersection versus a hawk?
A four-way intersection, you're probably looking at least double, if not probably like 250%.
Okay, and what is the price of a hawk?
The hawk we're estimating right now, a little worried about current train climates. Somewhere between the 300,000 range, and for a full signal, we're probably looking somewhere in the 600,000 and 700,000 range.
Okay. Okay, then, I agree that the bike lanes don't really make sense. It would be nice to hug the bike lane closer to the pedestrian, so drivers aren't looking at two different things. My only concern is, has CDOT done any studies on percent of people actually obeying the hawk signals here in the state? Because this will be our first one. I have a study from Delaware open on my computer to kind of bring that up.
As far as CDOT specific, I don't know off the top of my head. I know there's a few federal guidelines and studies have been done that. But if you want to send that study to Stephanie, she can get it to us.
Yeah, like I'll just say it for the rest of the board as well. Delaware noticed that it's about a 41% of motorists were observed disregarding the red signal. And actually it increased crashes by 27% at a intersection that it caused Delaware DOT to actually not allow these in the entire state.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look at it.
I just want to bring that up, not saying that, our CDOT is maybe a little different. Our roadways are also a little different than Delaware. I do question it being at a four-way intersection. I do agree something needs to be done. I think a normal stoplight, even though the cost is a lot greater, it makes a whole lot more sense to understand it for the public, especially when the hawk signal is flashing yellow, then it's solid red, then it's flashing red again. I bet you anything, majority, even with however much education we can do, majority motorists are going to be confused. So that's my general opinion of a hawk signal in this project. So, but I'll definitely send that study.
Yeah, happy to read it.
I'd like to ask you about the pedestrian demand at this location. Did your studies find that people are parking in the neighborhoods south of 17th and then walking across this intersection to get to the lake and the park? Or is there some other source of pedestrian demand that this is responding to?
The intersection study we didn't look that far down the road. We mostly focused on crossing the intersection. We did see a lot of, appears to be neighborhood traffic as well as school traffic from Longmont Estates Elementary and Westview Middle School. It seems like people in that Lakeshore Drive area were using that area. So we were making that mid-block crosswalk was part of the intention of giving a good, safe access to school. And then in addition, it creates a new connection for Lake McIntosh Trail, as well as providing less crossing distance because the closest signal right now is at 17th and Harvard, which I believe is a quarter or half mile away from the existing intersection. So there's no reason why across arterial, providing another crossing there. But as far as our study information, we were just focusing on how many people were crossing and then if it was a elderly or school-age children crossing.
Okay, I know that there are crossing guards at 17th and Airport to provide safe access to a school that's in the southwestern quadrant of that intersection. Is there another school involved?
That crossing location is just Westview Middle School. The school district provides that crossing guard. Currently, we are short on crossing guards, and it's been dwindling year by year. So we're looking into more infrastructure-related projects where we can provide safe crossings for all people 24/7. So that's kind of part of the thought behind this project is provide a safe crossing for recreation access as well as school-age
Okay,
people
so
access.
is that the school that would be served by this new signal?
Yes, both Westview Middle and Longmont Estates, which is right off of 23rd Avenue.
I see.
Or
Yeah, Longmont Estates Elementary is on Northwestern Drive,
Northwestern, thank you.
south of 17th. So if you just keep going south.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
I guess. Today, where would they cross 17th? Is that at the airport 17th intersection there, or?
There's two crossing locations, one that are traffic controlled. So Harvard and 17th is a full signal there for crossings on four sides, and then there is a uncontrolled crosswalk at 17th and Airport on the west side. We generally have tried to get signage to use. There's an underpass to go underneath Airport Road at Rutgers Drive off of Airport. So ideally, we would want to funnel people to go across Harvard down to the underpass and use that as a safer crossing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Jim, Cami, and Kyle, maybe a quick question. Council's been getting some feedback on the 17th and Airport intersection, and then Jim, I know you sent a detailed update earlier today. I'm just curious, from your professional expertise here, is this Hawk intersection improvement that we're talking about here, what are like the spillover benefits to that intersection in terms of kind of traffic control, speed management, and all of that? Because all intersections, no intersection exists in a vacuum, right?
Yes, I would say it'd be a great kind of sight deterrent to show a changing landscape. One thing you notice about 17th Avenue, it's very straight and it's very concrete and gray. So providing some different things for your brain to attach to as you're driving makes you a bit more focused of a driver. So with more people crossing at those intersections, presumably more people will be stopping, as well as we increase more signage and information through Vision Zero. We're hoping to get a little more attention on the roads and maybe get rid of some sign clutter and make more high visibility crossings in the city.
Great, appreciate it.
Okay, I have a couple of comments and questions. So I'm guessing there's like a number of pedestrians you have to observe before you kind of consider doing an intersection change. I'm guessing that this met that kind of line. What is that number of pedestrians?
Yes, I believe it's within a given hour. So the main driving factor behind this was the school. I believe it's 20 pedestrians in an hour. And elderly and school children are considered 2 pedestrians at a crossing. So we factored those in. It did meet those warrants for that time. Usually we saw during school release, as well as when it's nicer weather, you see more people using the recreation areas.
Okay. Have you considered adding any road diets to 17th to make that crossing shorter for pedestrians?
So this area, we did run into some issues with grading. If you notice on the south side of the road, there's a big berm that kind of raises up. So making that connection was difficult. Before we selected this area, we did look at several areas along 17th between Harvard and 17th and Airport. Unfortunately, some of those weren't feasible just to ADA requirements to get people at grade in that short amount of distance. As part of 17th Avenue with road diets, it's something we'll evaluate for Vision Zero. If we did do improvements, we'd like to do corridor-wide, complete streets. So we want to piecemeal, 100 feet of bike lane for the intersection, then have it drop off. If we did provide bike lanes or extra infrastructure, we want to make that a consistent experience for that roadway segment.
Okay. How many cars utilize that left turning lane on 17th going south onto Northwestern, or vice versa going north on Lakeshore Drive from the east, west even?
Are you asking just general left turn movements?
Yes, like how used are those left turn lanes? Like, is there a lot of people turning left, or is it just a few people?
It's spread throughout the day, in the mornings and afternoons, rush hour times. You do see some decent use with them. Not so much coming from the neighborhoods, but coming off 17th, you do see some significant amount of movement for those areas.
Okay. Would it be another thought to add changing those left turning lanes to a median instead?
That was considered. The use was enough, and to reduce those lanes down on a city arterial, we would want formal approval through the Vision Zero action plan, and further community engagement for this project.
Okay. Is that going to happen before or after this project?
It would most likely happen after, and that would be with advisement from Vision Zero action plan committee.
Okay. Because, 40 feet is not the longest crossing, but it's also not that short either.
No, it's a crossing. It's our RTO, but it is a completely protected movement since the signal is just for pedestrians. And one thing we didn't mention is we're looking into passive detection as well. So looking at maybe extending that all red hold while it's sensing a pedestrian in the crosswalk. And then if someone decides not to use the signal, we can at least provide a little bit of warning if someone's in the roadway.
Okay. And I know you talked about the red flashing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's going to add the most confusion out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just make it just solid red? A car waiting an extra 20 seconds, I think, is probably okay to make sure that everyone is safe.
Yeah, it was considered. What you see is if it's a solid red for 20, 30 seconds, people who live in the area are going to run it more often because they're going to be stuck at that light for longer. So we want to create a situation where people can be predictable, which is hard when you have 20,000 people driving on a road. So if we can create a balance between movement and access, and provide at least a predictable situation for both car users and pedestrians and bicyclists, that's generally the safest operation.
Okay. But I feel like the red flashing stop sign is actually less predictable. Then it requires them.
Our surrounding cities do have a lot of hawk signals. Firestone has installed several the past few years. Loveland has a few. Lafayette, Louisville, Broomfield, they all use that style of hawk signal. So it might be newer to Longmont, but the surrounding areas do have familiarity with it.
Yeah, you're basically saying that people just run red lights, which is true all the time, but that would be true for any intersection when you don't have someone going the other way. So it would be no different to any other red light on an intersection where no one's going the other way.
Yeah, and as we look into being in school and throughout the year, we have been in contact with public safety for assistance as we get new infrastructure in to maybe provide extra enforcement and education opportunities for people in the roadway who may not know that that's what that means. Same goes with flashing bus signs, people flying through buses and all that. So sometimes some cross-city cooperation does go a long way.
Okay. Maybe having it so that you can have it flashing during the winter when it's not used as much, and then having it solid red when schools are in season. Also, something along those lines, so that when it's being most used and most likely to have a lot of people crossing.
That's a thought with the passive detection, is we can actually hold that all red while someone's actively in the crosswalk, and then once they clear, we can switch to that flashing red movement.
Okay.
So Chair McKee-Burrows, one thing to note, as with any new type of signal or roundabout or any new traffic control device, well, it does require a little bit of education. There also will require a component of monitoring to determine what is the best use for how that signal or roundabout is actually going to operate. If there's additional signing that's needed, if we need to change how it operates, staff will be looking to do that as well. So as this is new, we're going to have to see how it works. Okay, and if we have to change something out, we will do that to make this intersection safest it can be.
Okay. Thank you. I haven't talked about roundabouts yet, so I probably should say, have you considered a roundabout?
This has primarily been a pedestrian and bicycle-focused project. As far as a roundabout, it'd be kind of outside the budgetary constraints we have for this project. So it would balloon out, plus the surrounding area would be hard to make pedestrian access possible with just the between the drainage and then the elevated crosswalk. But we are looking to alternative design options with other intersections along 17th Avenue.
All right. A couple more questions is what's the current number of vehicles that use 17th on a daily basis?
Top of my head, I believe it's somewhere between the 15,000, 20,000 range.
Okay. And is there probably obviously a peak time?
School drop off and work
Yeah.
general work
Yeah.
hours.
Okay. And does 15,000 cars dictate to have a 5-lane road?
What we're dealing with right now is what was already built,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's why I alluded to if we
But
did.
in today's standards, what's the
It's classified as a principal arterial, so with the purpose of moving significant vehicle traffic. 17th Avenue is kind of set up to be that way, unfortunately.
yeah?
But as we're looking through our Vision Zero action plan, looking at what options are available, it would be some significant work to reconfigure those lanes, as well as make it clear with the existing, to remove the existing lane work. It's still pretty visible when you grind it off. So we're probably looking at full resurface to adjust any lanes. So
Yeah.
we want more of a comprehensive plan to make any significant changes.
And then any of the other communities that you mentioned that have hawk signals, like I have seen them around, but I can't recall that I've seen them in a intersection itself. So, and either you can email me later to see maybe I'm missing one.
Yeah, there's a few, but yeah, I can find an example. I think one's at Firestone, like Colorado, and it was like Blue Moon or something like that, Moon Court.
Okay.
But I can find some for you and provide
Yeah.
some examples.
Yeah, because I think that'd be great. And then, I do understand that there's always constraints, and we inherit what we built many years ago, unfortunately. But I do, I'm not a huge fan of hawk signals, as I hope you enjoyed that 130-page study.
Oh, I love it.
that I just sent. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
Just one follow up on this conversation. We talked about cost of different intersection improvements before. And I was just curious. Some of my peers on the board here were asking about kind of the roundabout consideration here, and just for going forward when we're thinking about other intersection improvements, how does a hawk signal compare to an RFFB and a roundabout, just in general? And I know they're serving different purposes too.
So starting small, like RFRBs, they generally depends on what improvements need to be made to make them ADA compliant. If it's just an existing ramp and we can just put those in with the existing what's out there today, we're usually about $10,000, $15,000. Again, with a wider road, we're not really looking. It's not the best use of it, just for attention's sake. And then we're looking at roundabouts. They can vary. Some people confuse roundabouts and traffic circles a little bit. Depends on
enlighten us.
It might be a full study session. But a lot of it comes down to the volume. So if you have too small of a roundabout and high enough volume, it's going to back up in almost every direction because there's not enough reaction time inside the roundabout to decide if you can go, you cannot. Then some people are aggressive. If you ever go up to Shields up in Johnstown, it's a great example of it appears to be big enough, but go there on a Saturday or Black Friday, it fails quickly. So when we're looking at principal arterials and roundabouts, we want something that's a little bit wider, that is more forgiving and can give every driver an opportunity to figure out where they are on the intersection, if they can go or not, and then if they have to wait, when they can go.
Gotcha. And is the cost of that, let's say the cost of a roundabout like we have at the Costco intersection, for instance, or traffic circle, which is that?
Yeah, the benefit of that was a fresh intersection, so they generally run a little bit cheaper. But for instance, we're looking at That area between probably additional right-of-way take, it can be anywhere from 750 to maybe a couple $1 million. And that excludes utility impacts where we might have to relocate. And
All
then-
for one roundabout.
So,
all for one roundabout.
Yeah, thank you.
Correct.
so Council Liaison Popkin, if you're looking at a roundabout at, I'll use an example, 17th and Airport,
Sure.
that's going to be between $4 to $5 million.
Okay.
When you factor in design, conceptual design, full-blown design, community engagement, communications, property acquisition, utility relocations, and then construction, it's going to be running, looking at more than likely a 3 to 5 year project and about 4 to 5
And low
million.
millions. Yeah. Good. Great. Okay. Thank you.
And just as a reminder, I think we mentioned it in the last meeting or two, but right now, currently through the Vision Zero work, we're having all of the intersections, especially the biggest and the most dangerous, analyzed right now for a level of safety service to sort of come up with what does each individual intersection need to make it safer. So that's coming soon. It's not necessarily going to be directly related to this intersection or these smaller ones, but just as a reminder is that level of analysis Longmont hasn't had before. So hopefully this will be new value add that we're getting soon through some of the Vision Zero work, is really being able to prioritize the limited number of dollars we have with where should we be investing these different kind of intersection treatments and what type to really max out our dollars
Absolutely.
for safety benefit. So coming soon.
Thank you, Cammie. Thank you, Jim. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kyle.
Sorry, it's me again. All right, so how, just curious of the turn lanes, have we seen them build up to fill the entire turn lane during rush hour per se? Like, I'm sure during the middle of the day, never. Because I see that the turn lane is extremely long for airport, for 17th and Airport, obviously probably school related. But they're not that long for the Lakeshore Drive area. So I only just bring up this example because where I've been throughout the world, if there's a major road and, traditionally there's usually an underpass for pedestrians. But if there isn't, usually the crossing is significantly further away from the intersection, because then you deal with different conflicts. So vehicles have the conflict of the intersection, and then at a crossing with a pedestrian island, so shortening that turn lane distance, you're only shutting down traffic either east one time, and then you go to the island, then you're shutting down the west. That was the general norm of what I've experienced, specifically where Vision Zero actually came from. So I wonder if there's ever been any thought behind that, because I feel like that would be a whole lot cheaper than what's being proposed. Obviously, pedestrian movement is tricky to predict because that involves maybe going a bit further off of your ideal route. So it'd be curious if pedestrians are walking along 17th, or are they coming from Northwestern to go across? So just ideas there, to make it cheaper, but then also maybe even a little safer. Do you follow? what I'm
Yeah,
trying to-
no, I follow. We
Yeah.
did look at several areas from basically, was it Drake and 17th, and then mid-block crosswalks through there, as well as looking at where people are going and access. And unfortunately, between those two areas, that berm was kind of the biggest Achilles heel of the entire project, where it doesn't come back to grade until Northwestern.
Okay.
So realistically,
What about west of Northwestern?
north of say it one more time, sorry.
Because Drake is east to the east.
Yeah,
And if
Drake
it
is to
comes
the
back
east.
to grade, does it then it go back to a berm when it goes west on 17th of Northwestern?
Yep, and so we're trying to split that distance to provide at least two adequate crossings. This is one at Harvard with a full signalized intersection, and then Northwestern was chosen because it has direct access to the school. It can also serve as a in-between for 17th and Airport and Harvard, because at that point there's no really protected crossing until you get to or any kind of crossing infrastructure until you get to 17th and Airport, where it's uncontrolled. And unfortunately, if we did a project there, we need right-of-way acquisitions, and that would take significantly more time and money to get that project accomplished.
Okay. I'm just trying to think creatively here.
No, I appreciate it.
How to reduce costs and also make everyone safer. And crossing, that's the advantage of a pedestrian refuge, is you only have to worry about traffic one direction at a time. I think there might be creative options. I would have to personally go and look at the grade to be curious of how that could actually be accomplished via the walkway. I bet creatively from both directions it could be. But, that's the engineers to get involved. So. All right. Thanks again.
Yep, no problem.
And then I realized we don't know when we're doing this project. So when are we doing this? When is the hope to do this project?
We're hoping to get our final design set here in the next month or two, and our goal right now is to get construction during the summer before school starts and have that project wrapped up before school begins in session. So it's a very accelerated timeline, but we're hoping we can meet our self-imposed deadlines.
All right. Thank you.
To continue what Board Member Wickner was saying, I think it looked like I was just looking on Google Maps, so I'm probably not looking at it correctly, but where the beginning of the turn lane is, coming from the west side, turning left onto Lakeshore Drive, it looks like it's the same level on both sides to me. Maybe there's some utilities and stuff in the way over there, but I feel like not that many people are turning left onto Lakeshore Drive. Maybe there are tons, but there's no school up there. So closing that left-hand turn lane earlier, adding the crossing further to the west, just not even that far to the west really, of the intersection we're looking at now. Maybe anyway, just a thought, because it seems like that might be a little more straightforward in terms of for your planning and less confusing for cars potentially too.
Yeah, and when we're looking at these areas, we're kind of also looking at direct routes. I know a big concern is not making people walk further away than they need to for a safe crossing, or at least safer crossing. And we're looking at the use for this is going to be primarily one, recreation, but also the schools. So a lot of it is expectation of school children using where they're supposed to go. So the best way is to give them the path of least resistance. So if you're going to have school, if they need to go east at some point, they're highly unlikely to go west, then up and over. So that location does give them the most direct route to an adjoining sidewalk. As you saw on Lakeshore Drive through McIntosh, there's no sidewalk. But on the other side, there's a sidewalk connection, and it's tree island and lawn with a, I believe, 10-foot path. So it's a good multimodal opportunity over on those sidewalk areas.
Okay. I'm seeing in the box at the top here, it says alternations to the parking lane on the south side of the intersection have been considered for more intuitive north-south bike connectivity. Can you tell me a little bit what that means?
So on the south side of the intersection of Northwestern Drive, there's technically a bike lane and a parking lane, but that's a really short block from, I think, the cross street is Albion Lane. That you could probably utilize that space to just create one large bike lane by eliminating all or some of that parking. So that would bring the bike lane closer to the curb. So it's a little bit more intuitive north-south, but that was the idea.
Okay. Is that part of this project potentially?
Yes.
Okay. Would that be then you could probably make it a buffered bike lane then? Because of the extra space, perhaps?
Yes, that would be, that would really be like striping, buffers, and green paint probably, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be obviously more ideal, because then you could bring it right back over there. So it's a lot closer.
I think on that same note too, with that, I think the idea is we'd have the matched stencils on the receiving and exiting ends going north-south, even though they're missing right now on the plan. That was something we are also identified as, with that better alignment, also have the matched stencils of receiving and exiting. Not necessarily the green paint all the way through, but sort of the exit enter stencils.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Unless, yeah, the idea was that we'd bring the green striping over to align with the crosswalk, just like on the other three legs.
So you wouldn't have the green striping across the intersection? Is that what you're saying?
Potentially not. That was one of the alternatives we were looking at, is have the green striping through the intersections, align more adjacent all the way around, and then just have on the north-south legs, the stencils match for the receiving and exit green boxes.
Okay.
Not really a bike box, but just the stencils.
Yeah, because there's no lanes on Lakeshore.
Correct.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I would say
Because that bike lane is sort of floating out there by itself
as
right
so
now,
many
and not
do.
necessarily an intuitive use of it. So that's why we thought maybe a different striping pattern might be more helpful.
Is Lakeshore Drive wide enough to add a bike lane to it? So then it's not floating around and it actually
There are some. So we could look into it. There is quite a bit of parking utilization on Lakeshore Drive for Macintosh Lake, and there's also some further north. There's also some homes that have driveways directly fronting it. Doesn't necessarily preclude it, but it's a possibility. I'm not sure if you could fit. I don't think both a bike lane and a parking lane would fit.
Well, I think we can all guess what I would choose.
I mean, I think the idea is just to try to make sure that there's safe access, especially for those kids on bikes using that multimodal lane on the north side of 17th, as we want to give them a safe crossing without having to go all the way down to Harvard or use the airport.
Yeah, but if they had a bike lane on the other side, that would be a little slightly safer.
Totally understand, yeah.
Maybe you can add parking on one side and then, I don't know. Anyway, just a thought. Any other comments or thoughts on that? Okay, thank you for that. Good discussion. Next up, we have comments from board members, and we'll go from left to right this time, just to mix it up.
What is the status of that signal on Hover by the new development just north of the west side of Hover, just north of Home Depot?
Yeah, Mountain Brook Drive
Okay.
and Hover Street's the new intersection there, just north of Home Depot. It's about 90% built. We're waiting for our fiber and utility connections to the signal, and that's work being provided through the developer. And then we'll have a burn-in period for the signal, and then there'll be a press release as we turn that signal on.
Was that intended to also serve the Home Depot in terms of the signal itself, or is it primarily focused on the development?
Primarily the development, as well as some adjoining developments off of a Dry Creek Drive. That area has been recently developed with new single-family and multifamily homes, and so Mountain Brook Drive will serve several of those areas as kind of a collector, and then that will provide access to Hover Street as an alternative to Nelson Road. And then with that, we did add a sidewalk connection from Hover that wasn't previously there. So there will be a crossing where you can get to the front of the fairgrounds and then get onto the sidewalk over there.
Okay.
So hopefully see that signal going live in the next month or so once we can get all the clearances done and utility hookups.
Oh. Yep. Thanks.
Yep.
So I just want to comment on something. I know last time I said that I had a concern about the roundabouts because people were going the wrong direction. So either I have been totally blind for 7 years, or all of a sudden there's signs that show how you go on a roundabout. So I don't know. But thank you for the signs anyway, so.
I just want to thank staff for all the effort that's gone into preparing tabs 2026 work plan. Looks good to me.
And I will also second that. I look forward to this year. It's a great work plan. So I'm also looking forward to Vision Zero kind of cinching up and becoming the future plan for this city. So thank you.
I should wait until my microphone's on. Thank you for the great information. The capital improvement projects for this year are very exciting. I see that there's a big expansion to our bike network, and some key connections are coming in, and I'm very excited about that. I hope that with these big buffered bike lanes, there'll be space after plowing. I was doing some riding after our recent storm, and I kept getting pushed into the general travel lanes because there was ice buildup in the bike lanes because it was either plowed and left there, or just because car traffic does seem to like make its own space in snow. So yeah, I'm hoping that, more space means we can have a year-round bike system, and we can tell people that we respect their choice to bike year-round. But yes, the work plan looks fantastic. Great discussion tonight on this new intersection improvement. I hope that there's food for thought in there, even if we do end up using a hawk on this one. It is a very tricky intersection. I live in the area. It's definitely one that doesn't have an obvious correct answer. So thank you very much.
I also want to thank you all for preparing that. It looks really good as a web plan. I think it's one of our best good work years. I don't know. Some really good topics that we're discussing, and I'm excited about the working sessions that we're going to have this year. I did have a commendation for adding the signalized crossing on South Sunset Street for the schools there. I know you did that last year, but I keep forgetting to mention it. I see more pedestrians now than I've ever seen before using and actually going picking up their kids from school by walking, and I think that's because of that new crossing there. So that's good to see. One thing I have noticed, the new bike lanes have been added on left-hand circle when it's going up over towards Miller. Unfortunately, where that new crossing is, the flashing crossing between going towards Miller, the bike lane goes directly into the median. So literally the bike lane ends at the median, and then it continues on the other side. So there's nowhere for a bike to go other than into traffic.
Yeah, part of the discussions was with the school and their operations as far as getting kids to school from biking that direction, as well as their car lane pickup. It's a charter school, so they have a lot of people driving in, but they do have some local people as well. So we worked with the school safety officer as well as the principal to kind of come up with a interim solution for those two. So the intention is for bikes to, if they're going to school, cross that area at the flashing crosswalks, and then we can get them to their location at school from there. So we had both plans drawn up, and the school district the school itself favored having the drive lane more delineated.
Okay. Well, I continue going north. So every time I have to go around. But we're in the minority. But I don't know if there's any way to stop all of those cars parking in the bike lane on the north side of left-hand circle, because even though it's a bike lane, it fills up completely with cars on the north side.
We can look into some additional signing in that area.
Yeah, it's like, school drop-off time.
All right.
pick up.
I'll send some staff members look at it and see where people are parking, if we can remedy it a little bit. We did maintain parking on the south side for hopefully people using that to pick up and
Somebody.
leave. So
And there's plenty of space.
we'll
but-
provide some more education in that area.
Yeah. Left-hand circle. The north side is not only a bike lane, but the south side has a parking lane and then bike lane. But cars still use the bike lane as a parking lane, even though it's very clearly too narrow.
The south side of left-hand circle or the north?
North.
Yeah, it's probably not updated in the Google Earth.
Long here.
Left-hand circle goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those changes were just this summer.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'm talking about the south part of the circle before you get to Miller Drive. That section between South Sunset and Miller.
yeah,
section.
we'll send some staff members look at it.
Okay. Yeah, like it's great there's a bike lane, but no one can use it because it's filled with cars. But anyway, I just wanted to say about the crossings was great. But anyway, thank you. Staff liaison, council liaison.
Thank you, Chair. I have one substantive update, but first I do want to just again echo some of the board member comments and thank staff for not only the thorough updates and the significant projects in the works, but also the robust and organized work plan. I think it's really helpful for the public to see how structured and intentional you all are, how you're juggling a whole range of different priorities, and how this board is actually navigating a range of priorities as well. Even just the updates that we talked about today really hit on pedestrian, cyclist, and vehicle improvements. So really, really appreciate that. And transit too, that fit into even a lot of those projects. And frankly, those are some of the most tangible, visible uses of our tax dollars. And so it's actually great to be able to see such substantial projects also come into fruition, since I know many of them have been planned for quite a few years in the capital improvement plan. So thank you. The substantive update that I have is more procedural, but it's relevant for this board. And I just wanted to let the board know about changes that council made last Tuesday to the board member interview process. So the key changes here, typically the process follows that applicants would apply for the boards. The board would then form a little nominating or subcommittee to interview candidates. The board would then make recommendations to council. Council would then interview those recommended candidates and any other candidates that council wanted to. And then council would discuss in a meeting, a public meeting, kind of which candidates they wanted to actually appoint to the boards. That was in the works for a few years. It was fairly cumbersome procedurally. We're making two main adjustments. Number one, the board will now interview candidates with the council liaison. Each board and their council liaison will now interview the candidates at the board level, so that doesn't change. You'll still make recommendations as a board to council. Council will no longer be interviewing the board members. At that point, we will review the packets, the recorded interviews from the board interviews that happen, and then make a decision kind of based on all of that information. Frankly, I think council will still have a lot of the same information. Council will just also not conduct their own separate interviews, but the council liaison for each board will be privy to and present for those. So it shouldn't change a ton of the work on the board level. Frankly, it empowers the boards a little bit more to kind of help shape kind of your recommendations. And then council will still have a presence kind of throughout that process. So mostly just wanted to pass along and see if anyone had questions.
I know that there was controversy around one of the boards having members that were up for renewal also being on the interview committee. Are there rules around that are coming with this?
Yes, thank you. That was also a meaningful update that we made and codified formally. So before last Tuesday, I would like to think it was an unspoken rule that if you're a candidate, even if you're an incumbent candidate, that you would not be part of the interviewing committee. That was not consistently applied in a couple cases, and so we have codified that so that if you are an incumbent board member, you would not participate in the board interview process. I mean, you would interview yourself, but you would not be allowed on the interviewing panel, if that makes sense. So yes, thank you for clarifying that. That is also a substantive change that was made. Any other questions? Happy to dodge any others.
I got one.
Yeah.
I've been part of the interviews once, and then obviously I've been interviewed. The questions are kind of boring, and we have to stay on script. There's very little nuance you get to hear from candidates. So is that also a discussion to have actually, a robustness to actually get to know an interviewee?
Yeah, we had some conversation about that on Tuesday, and I'm trying to figure out where that resolved, if we specified anything further. Might look at staff a little bit here, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that boards can shape some of the, I think the boards can shape the questions that are asked as long as you consistently ask those questions to all of the applicants. So I forget what the work plan schedule was. I think it was the April meeting, Cami, where the nomination committee would be formed. So maybe at that point too, I would also encourage board members to think ahead to what questions you would want to ask future board members. Stephanie, am I misstating anything there on that process?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. So yeah, there we go. Planting a seed there for 2 meetings from now for y'all to come up with your best questions to stump everyone.
I'll be thinking for 2 months.
Cool. I think those are the main updates there. Just cleaning up, clarifying, and trying to kind of streamline that process a little bit. It's not just a streamline for council, it's a streamline for some staff too, because scheduling with all the council members in mind was also a bit of a chunk, and that usually was done on weekends. So we'll still, again, have access to the interview materials just as we have in the past, but this kind of condenses that process a little bit, so hopefully it also makes scheduling of the candidates for the board interviews themselves, gives you a little bit more breadth to play with and space to play with when you're actually trying to coordinate for that nominating committee before it actually goes to council.
Okay, next up, items for upcoming agendas. Now, I guess we're going to be following that work plan.
Yes. So what we can do is, especially in the meeting minutes, since they're not listed here, but just what's on deck and for sure what's coming next month, just for early awareness, is Boulder County is going to come present on the transit plan, the countywide transit plan. There'll be guest presenters next month. We also have a presentation most likely about our updated bicycle parking standards that Ben Ortiz will bring forward. And there may be an opportunity to bring forward, which we did talk about last year. Some of you might be familiar with some proposed potential updates to the neighborhood traffic mitigation program and how that could look different. I don't know that will necessarily be in its full-blown form state yet, but more sort of what might you want to prioritize or see in that, so we can bring that back maybe in a month or two with a more full-blown proposal for you. So I think staff is working on at what level is it ready for, but we want to make sure that gets back in front of you. So we'll have some grant updates, some data updates, Vision Zero kind of focus, some multiple grant updates, and some maybe some Kaufman progress, BRT progress reporting as well. So a number of good topics on deck for next month. So you can look at this. If there's things that you want to suggest and send us ahead of time of something else you'd like prioritized, please let us know. Like we said, this is a working document, but those are what seemed the most relevant for next month at this point, as well as any follow-up on some of the items that you all brought up tonight. We'll try to come back with some follow-up updates as well.
Okay. Thank you, Cami. Yeah. All right. Adjournment is next. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn.
I second the motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned. 8:04.
Thank you, board members.